Welcome back, Elaine, to the Zoom room. So, another Art of Letting Go live session. So let's jump into our stop the video. Let's jump into our teaching for today. Quote and some related teaching, which will lead us into the workbook lesson for today, and then started on the clarification of terms. So I want to do the introduction and section 2 on the clarification of terms. All right, so that's where we're at. Let's share my screen with you. Okay, so let's share the screen if you can read the if you can read that quote.
Which one, the white or the black?
Elaine, if you can read that quote for us.
The white or the black?
Both.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
It actually runs quite cleverly done, because you can read it down, but you can also read it across.
Oh, okay then. This is not a wall. This is a welcome. To you, to every person. It is a call, today and always. To accept differences, to reject division, to stand proud and speak your mind, to feel safe, to be safe, and spread love outside and in.
Yeah, if you read it, this is not a wall. Read it in the one side and then read in the other. That still makes sense.
This is not a wall to you. It is a call to accept differences, to stand proud, to feel safe, and spread love. This is a welcome to every person, today and always, to reject division and speak your mind, to be safe outside and in.
Yeah. So I don't know where that work was, but someone's taken quite a lot of trouble to write that message and thought about it. It's a great message. By an anonymous person who said who wrote it is a simple formula for undoing your belief in differences of any kind, right? Accept the differences, and reject division. So that doesn't mean make them real in your mind. A lot of people, well, you accept differences, you make them real. No, rather it rejects all forms of division, which is just separation. And in so doing, look beyond any apparent differences between the forms of this world to the simple truth that these differences are illusory perceptions. What Einstein called an optical delusion of consciousness in this quote, which I've shared before. So if you read the Einstein quote, is that big enough?
Yeah. The human being is part of the whole called by us universe. The part limited in time and space, he experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty.
Yeah, And then there's a, have you seen this before? So you probably know it. There's an image there,
Yeah,
which looks like a boat on a sea. A lot of people think it's
it does. Or a
a boat
shark
on a sea.
or a
Yeah,
cheesecake.
people think it's a boat on a sea, but it's actually a photo of a cheesecake,
Yeah, you can see that.
which kind of
Clear.
illustrates the point of what Einstein's saying. It's like, well, really, it's just a delusion of consciousness. So you can see something and believe it's a boat and on a sea or a shark, but you'd actually be wrong. It's actually a cheesecake. And obviously, from a bigger perspective, what Yeshua and the mystics are teaching us is that it's all illusion. There is no cheesecake, there is no boat, there is no sea. All of those symbols are just symbols in a dream that are unreal. But within the symbols, there's nothing that's reliable. That you can go, well, that's it, that's reality. In there, it's very perceptual, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And you change your perception, and you can see something entirely differently in the same image, in the same picture. So what it illustrates is that we do this all the time in our daily lives. We look at a picture and we see that picture in one way and we interpret it in one way, and that's a perception. And then if we change our minds, we can see it completely differently, radically differently. The true acceptance is really just letting go of your attachment to the form of everyone and everything in this world. We've discussed this before, but it's important to understand that acceptance doesn't mean you accept the dream and you accept the delusion, the optical delusion of consciousness, as Einstein puts it. It means that you let go of your attachment to the form of everyone and everything in this world. So there's then an acceptance, a deeper acceptance of a reality beyond the form. That's what acceptance really means. Again, it gets confusing for people. That's why I don't use acceptance very much. I talk about letting go. But in the end, letting go is acceptance. When you let go, you accept another higher reality, a higher or deeper reality that's beyond form. And you perceive only the changeless essence of every form through your own changeless essence, which is God, in Course in Miracles terminology, and pure formless awareness of perfect love in our alternative art of letting go language. If you dedicate your life to correcting your distorted perceptions of reality in this way, you will be fulfilling your one true function in this world of time, space, and perception, which is to let this optical delusion of consciousness, as Einstein phrases it, go entirely. Return your mind to its eternal home in the state of pure formless awareness, or in Course in Miracles terminology, heaven. So our only job while we're here, our only function, our only purpose is to free our minds from believing in this optical delusion, being enslaved to the delusion of consciousness, which isn't real, and to free them into the state of pure formless awareness, of perfect love, or heaven, which lies beyond this optical delusion. And all the mind training lessons that we do every day, it's just another lesson in helping us to do that, to let go of an aspect of our attachment to this world and truly accept the deeper reality of our self, capital self, and this reality we call God, pure formless awareness of perfect love, as it really is. And that's what today's mind training lesson is all about. So if you can read that, let me just jump to the lesson in a Word document. Okay, so let all things be exactly as they are. You can read.
Let all things be exactly as they are. I let everyone and everything.
Just start again, Elaine. Sorry, I started the recording.
Let all things be exactly as they are. I let everyone and everything be exactly as they really are.
Yeah, so let all things be exactly as they are. And my translation is, I let everyone and everything be exactly as they really are. And as they really are is this awareness. They are fundamentally, in essence, just pure, formless awareness of perfect love and nothing else. That's all they are. That's all they ever are. And if you can see that, can understand that, then you have the basis for an enlightened perception of everyone and everything as they really are, which is as you are. Just that base foundational reality called the ground of being by some philosophers. And when you perceive that consistently, that is the state of unconditional love, because you are perceiving them as they really are and as you really are. You recognize them in you and you in them, which is why we have the greeting namaste. You know, I see you as you really are. That's what it means. I honor you as you really are. I see your essence as you really are. And that's the basis of unconditional love, a perception in which there's no separation going on, and you perceive the person as and everything. It's not just people, animals, plants, even inanimate objects, as they really are. They really are just this deeper awareness, pure formless awareness of perfect love, as we call it. And everything else is just a kind of veil of illusion that covers that over. So the lesson is designed again to point you to that deeper level of reality and help you to let go of your attachment to the surface level. Okay, so let's go to the lesson itself. If you can read the first paragraph, which is the prayer in the original and the alternative, line by line, sentence by sentence.
Let me not be your critic, Lord, today and judge against you. My source, I will not be your critic today and judge against you. Let me not attempt to interfere with your creation and distort it into sickly forms. I will not attempt to interfere with your perfect being and distort it into sickly forms. Let me be willing to withdraw my wishes from its unity and thus let it be as you created it. I am willing to let go of my wishes and that contradict its unity, and so let it be as you extend it. For this will I be able to recognize myself as you created me. For so too will I be able to recognize myself as you extended me. In love was created, and in love will I remain forever. In love I am extended, and in love I will remain forever. What can frighten me when I let all things be exactly as they are? What can frighten me when I let everything and everyone be exactly as they really are?
Okay, so what's he saying in that one? I think just read it from the top. Read it from the top in the alternative.
My source, I will not be your critic today and judge against you. I will not attempt to interfere with your perfect being, distort it into sickly forms. I am willing to let go of my wishes that contradict its unity, and so let it be as you extend it. For so too, I will be able to recognize myself as you extended me. In love, I am extended, and in love, I will remain forever. What can frighten me when I let everything and everyone be exactly as they really are?
Oh, so what's he saying in this one?
Well, while we're in our source, we just don't need the critic to judge against it, because it'll twist things and distort it and see sickly forms, when all we have to do is stay in this love, and we don't need to get frightened, because everything and everyone will be exactly as they really are, rather than this distorted, sickly form.
Naming the extensions we are, and recognizing ourselves as we really are,
Mm-hmm.
as love extended and extending. And then he says, what can frighten me? Let everything and everyone be exactly as they really are. So even if the appearance is that they're not that, someone's being unkind or unpleasant or downright, attacking and violent, you can still choose to see them as they really are.
Yeah.
Which is just this divine essence that is completely innocent, pure, harmless. It takes a lot of mind training to do that. Someone's not being very nice. It takes a lot of mind training, but you have that choice still available, because it's your choice how you want to see them. And so it flies in the face of the ego and the world's logic entirely, which is why it undoes it. Okay, so happy with number one.
Yes.
Read number two, the short second paragraph.
Let not our sight be blasphemous today, nor let our ears attend to lying tongues. I will not let my sight deceive me today, nor let my ears listen to lies. Only reality is free of pain. Only reality is free of loss. Only reality is free of loss. Oh, that one again. Only reality is wholly safe. Only reality is wholly safe. And it is only this we seek today. And I choose to perceive only this today.
Yeah, so only reality is capitalized, you see. So the small r, and really what we're pointing to here is true reality. Pure form is the oneness of perfect love, the ground of being, spirit, whatever you want to call it, that is free of pain, free of loss, wholly safe. And so no matter what seems to happen on this level, whatever the appearances are, I choose to perceive only this today, because it's a choice. Again, he's pointing it back to the fundamental teaching of this course is choose again. And you can choose which reality you want to perceive, irrespective of what's being shown to you. Your choice can override whatever is being shown to you. So even if there seems to be, misery and suffering and pain and sickness and death in your dream, you can still choose to see true reality, capital reality, which is free of loss, free of pain, wholly safe, and experience that. That's the inner kingdom. The kingdom of heaven is within, as Yeshua pointed out. Go into that inner kingdom, and in that kingdom, in that state of mind, that's what the kingdom is, a state of mind, a state of being. You find true reality, you find yourself. Okay. Yeah. So any other thoughts, Elaine? Or What's he
Yeah,
saying
nice.
in the
If we just go to our real reality and just, put our sight and hearing and not listen to see and listen to lies, then our true reality will be free of loss. It'll be wholly safe. A very nice state to be in, but we can't choose with training, unless you're
We
one of
can.
those lucky ones that seem to just get it all straight away.
Yeah. I think there's a few and far between. Even people like Eckhart Tolle and Byron Katie. They went through many years of being deeply unhappy, deeply unconscious and unhappy before they just finally woke up. So it was a process for them. What comes to mind when you say that is example of Ramana Maharshi, was an enlightened Indian sage, and he woke up when he was 16. He had one difficult experience he had up to that point. Yeah, his father died a couple of years before, and he just faced this intense fear of death, but he just somehow knew that if he acquired on it and he just looked at it and he observed it, that it would just disappear. And so he overcame really the fear of death, which is kind of the ultimate fear, at 16, and never looked back. He lived his life in an enlightened state. But that's pretty unusual. Most people don't have that sort of path. And probably, if you look at karmic, the idea of karma, that it wasn't his first lifetime, that he would have probably done a lot of spiritual work in a previous lifetime. So he might have been some very advanced yogi, mystic, teacher, guru, whatever, who'd done a lot in his previous lifetime. He'd kind of prepared himself, and then in that lifetime, that was kind of his final lesson. But he got it early at 16, rather than having to wait his whole life, and then spent the rest of his life in this enlightened state, just blissing out and inspiring others, by his example. He taught others just through his presence. They would come to him and say, "I have nothing to say. Just sit in the silence. Sit in the silence with me." And that's the teaching. You will learn more from sitting in silence with me than from me speaking for an hour. Because he would just take people into this reality that Yesh is pointing to, capital reality. He would give them an experience of that in the silence, because he was in it all the time. So he helped them to enter it and experience it. And that experience is way more powerful than any theory. This is why. So we'll see when we do the introduction to clarification of terms. He says, universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience is not only possible but necessary. It comes down to experience in the end. And so these short course lessons in part 2 of the workbook are very much designed to bring you that experience. It's very short. They're short little pointers in the sutra tradition of ancient India, which sutras are just these, very short sentences or paragraphs that just point you to something. It's not a long discourse. It's like 1 or 2 sentences, and then that points you to within to help you to experience what the sutra is talking about. So you actually have an experience rather than just intellectual knowledge. So that's the sutra idea, and he's really very much in that tradition of the sutras, haiku poetry. That's another one. Just very short, brief pointers to take you into an altered state of mind, and that's what these workbook lessons in part 2 do. So the idea is just to sit, contemplate them, meditate on them, spend some time with them, and let them take you into the states or mind that they point to. So they're perfect for meditation, which I suggest we do now. So we do a meditation on this lesson.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so let's do a med. Just give me a moment. All right, so let's do a meditation on today's lesson. 268 we're on to. So just sitting comfortably in your favorite meditation posture, feet shoulder width apart, your back straight, cup your hands on your lap, close your eyes, and start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. You do that, you clench the sphincter muscle to lock the energy in, draw the energy up the spine into your heart center. Put one hand on your heart, it's connecting with your heart space. Pull the energy up into the crown of your head, pausing at the top of the inhale. So it's a maximal inhale breath. So just scan your mind at the top of the inhale. Notice any thoughts, emotions, related body sensations going on. Particularly anything that feels negative, limiting, contracted, constricting in any way. And you're just going to let it go. The breeze of your breath. So you exhale. Remind yourself that I let all things be exactly as they are. I let everyone and everything be exactly as they really are. All things, all people. And you just blow it out. Letting it go, the breeze of your breath, like a black smoke or dark clouds leaving you out of your mouth, out of your body, out of your energy system. It's gone. Pull the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. And just rest in peace and stillness. So now listen to these words and repeat them after me as you breathe. You listen to me speak the words and then hold the breath briefly as I do that. When I stop, then you exhale out through the nose and you speak the words as affirmations of the truth. So let's try that. Breathe in, slowly breathing into the lower stomach, blowing it up like a balloon. Clenching the sphincter muscle, lock the energy in. Pull the energy up the spine. Your heart center, one hand on your heart, connecting with your heart space. Say, my source. I will not be your critic today and judge against you. And exhale. And the nose. Breathing in again. Deepen our breath. So I will not attempt to interfere with your perfect being and distort it into sickly forms. Breathe in on the truth of that. I will not try to interfere with being distorted into sickly forms. What happens when we get sick, injured, distorted being into sickly forms? And exhale, repeat those words. I will not attempt to interfere with your perfect being and distort it into sickly forms. Exhale, repeat. Breathing in again. So let me be willing, or I am willing to let go of my wishes that contradict its unity. And so let it be as you extend it. Exhale, speak those words. I'm willing to let go of my wishes that contradict its unity, and so let it be as you extend it. Blow it out, breathing in again. To every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. Breathing in the light of your true awareness, pure formless awareness. It's called perfect love. Breathe that in to every pore, every cell. Every muscle. So too will I be able to recognize myself as you created or extend me. Exhale on the truth of that as you speak those words. So too will I be able to recognize myself as you extend me. Breathing in again. Breathing in this loving awareness to every pore, every cell. So too I'll be able to recognize myself as you extend me. Breathing in again. In love, I am extended. In love, I'm extended, and in love, I will remain forever. So breathe that love in to every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is in this loving awareness, using entire body, your entire mind. It can frighten me when I let everything and everyone be exactly as they really are. Breathe in that divine reality, the truth, anchor it in. Anyone comes to mind, just perceive them in this truth. They are the same awareness as you. So let, breathing in again, say, I will not let my physical sight deceive me today. Nor let my ears listen to lies. Only reality is free of pain. Only reality is free of loss. Only reality is wholly safe. I choose to perceive only this reality. Choose to perceive only this today. So you just sink inwards in a deeper meaning and perception lies beyond the surface perceptions of the world. You feel it. Your eyes closed, just focus on the feeling within you. Exhale and a sense of letting go of anything else, loss and pain, any fear, grief, guilt, sin, and all of it just gets released with the breath, blow it away. The breeze of your breath to the nothingness that it really is. Going, gone. The nothingness that it really is. And you just rest here in this deep peace and stillness. It's true reality, and the lesson points to that it's free of pain and free of loss and wholly safe. Choose to perceive only this today. So I will not let my physical sight deceive me today, nor let my ears listen to lies. Only reality is free of pain. Only reality is free of loss. Only reality is wholly safe. I choose to perceive only this today. So drop beyond perception now into deeper experience in your mind, your heart. Drop your attention to your heart center. Just breathing in and out through your nose. Nice deep, slow, rhythmical patterns. And you can imagine just breathing in nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, be still. And surrender into that stillness, true reality, and quiet and peace and silence for the next couple of minutes of deep contemplative silence. And so just gently coming back from this deep connected state into an awareness of your body and the breath, senses, and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in. Noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pause at the top of the inhale. Smile, scan. What it really is still pure formless awareness, perfect love. It's its true nature. There's its essence, if you like that word. And I choose to perceive that and only that in the situation. So it is. Exhale on the count of 2. Just blow this out, letting it all go, blowing it all away. The breeze of your breath, to the nothingness that it really is. Let it all go. Notice on the count of 2 that the weight of your body is pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling and touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, smell in your nose. And notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. Just noticing all these things. It's very still, calm, and surrendered state, without judgment or attachment. You just let everyone and everything be exactly as it is. It's the non-judgmental perception that this lesson is pointing to. So practice that now with your eyes open. So count to 3, open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around the room, just observing various objects in the room. Animate or inanimate, human or not. Glance briefly at any object that randomly catches your eye. Remind yourself that I let all things be exactly as they are. Notice the peace that comes with that perception. You can close your eyes briefly. Notice that that peace that you experience in your meditation is still there. And then you open your eyes and notice that the same peace is there. It's the same awareness, the same state, the same peace. Whether your eyes are open or closed, and just do that for a few seconds. You open your eyes, look at another object, and then close your eyes. Notice the same piece. Do that for, say, half a dozen objects, just for 3 or 4 seconds at a time. And you notice that that piece is constant. And God, which is this reality this lesson is pointing to, is everywhere. God goes with me wherever I go, as one of the workbook lessons says, because God is in my mind. Translated into our terms of language, perfect love, pure forms of awareness of perfect love goes with me wherever I go, because pure formless awareness of perfect love is in my mind. It's always there, which is why everything and everyone has it. And that's exactly what it really is. When you perceive it as it really is, then you perceive yourself as you really are. That's how perception works. Which is why there's such an emphasis on how you perceive, particularly other people in this course. Because Yeshua knows that if you perceive them incorrectly, then you perceive yourself incorrectly and you're never going to get home. You're still going to believe in a false self-concept. If you perceive them correctly, then this helps you correct your own mind and realize who you really are, the very essence that you are, which is what they are, and you see that in them. Therefore, you see it in yourself and reinforce it in yourself. So a very powerful lesson, just another way of framing this letting go teaching and non-judgmental perception. Really not just letting everything be exactly as it is in truth, and not judging any apparent diversions from that, any variations on that as anything of significance, anything real. Just staying rooted in the deeper awareness of what they really are. So hope that meditation has helped you connect with the very essence of who you are, and it's good preparation for the rest of the session, where we'll read the introduction to the clarification of terms and one of the sections, section 2 of it, which clarifies what the ego and the miracle means. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the meditation. Let's move on to clarification of terms, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a look at the introduction first. So we kind of skipped that the last couple of days. So we'll do that. It's 5 paragraphs, and then the section 2, fairly short paragraphs as well. So clarification of terms is just exactly what it says. It's a section of the course designed to clarify some of the terms used, so that it helps us to understand terms like ego, spirit, mind, and so on. And so it's a helpful adjunct, especially to help you understand the text. All right, so this is the introduction to it. If you want to read that in the original and the alternative, sentence by sentence, please, Elaine.
This is not a course in philosophical speculation, nor is it concerned with precise terminology. Oh, yeah. And that's the same.
Yeah. Not
Yeah.
too much to translate here.
It is concerned only with adornment or the correction of perception. It is concerned only with awakening or the correction of perception.
I think we'll leave that as
Means-
adornment. Do you think it's helpful to translate adornment as awakening? Does that
they both
kind of add to
to
your understanding?
Well, I like awakening, but some people might like adornment. Are they not pretty much the same?
Yeah. I mean, they're synonymous.
Well, I prefer awakening, but there'll be some people prefer the other. So it's a matter of choice.
Yeah, we'll call it awakening, shall we? And we've got
Yeah, well, I prefer that, but each to their own.
and so not only is awakening, one-ment is the awakening to oneness. It's the process of realizing that really there's only one mind, and you are part of that mind. So you awaken to that knowledge. And you do that through the correction of perception, which happens through letting go.
Mhm.
Okay, next one, number
3. The means of awakening is letting go. The means of the at-one-ment is forgiveness. The structure of individual consciousness is essentially irrelevant because it is a concept representing the original error or the original sin. The structure of individual consciousness is essentially irrelevant because it is a concept representing the original error or the original sin. To study the error itself does not lead to correction. To study the error itself does not lead to correction. Oh, I've missed the, sorry, I finished the sentence off. To study the error itself does not lead to correction if I am indeed to succeed in overlooking the error. And it is just this process of overlooking at which the Course aims. And it is just this process of overlooking in which the Course aims.
let's translate this as, if I'm indeed to succeed in overlooking the error, studying the error itself does not, studying the error itself will not lead to correction, will not lead to its correction. So remember, he's given this to psychotherapists, Bill and Helen, who are very much familiar with various systems of thought. Psychology is really the study of so-called individual consciousness, isn't it? That's what it's about. The psyche means mind, logos means study of the mind, study of this consciousness, and that seems to be highly individualized. Various different things going on in different people, and psychology kind of names those and labels them and says, well, that person has got this pathology and that person has got this delusion, and so on. But he's actually saying to them that the structure of individual consciousness, however you want to slice and dice the so-called individual consciousness, is essentially irrelevant, because individual consciousness represents the original error or the original sin that was made. That original error is separation and the individuation that happened because of that. So we want to look at that in our diagram form. Where are we? We can find it. There we go. Let's go back to most used diagram. This kind of lays it out, doesn't it? Saying the original error is separation, and individuality or individual consciousness comes from the idea of separation very clearly. And you now have a seemingly separate identity that's named. And he's saying, well, to study this error is not going to lead you to correcting it. Because what most of these systems do psychology studies the error, says this is the individual consciousness, makes it real, labels it, slices and dices it, names it, judges it, tries to find some kind of remedy or solution for it, but of course makes that individual consciousness real. And what he's saying is a different approach is needed. You can't study the error and expect to free yourself from the error. You have to overlook the error. You have to see past the error, not get so deeply into studying the error that you make it real and you think that the error is reality, which is the mistake that most of these kinds of systems, like psychology, certainly Western psychology, make. Because as soon as you define it and you name it, and then you've got a whole study of it called psychology, which people can study for years and get degrees in, and now they have a profession. You've made the error real, and of course, then it's virtually impossible to overcome. This is why he says at some point in the course, well, nothing really happens in psychology, traditional psychology, because the error of separation and the idea that you're an individual consciousness is not really being addressed and overlooked. It's being made real, and then some kind of solution within the reality of that problem of individual consciousness is sought. And there's various ingenious solutions the ego comes up with within that framework of thought, but none of them will work because they all just buy into the delusion that there really is an individual self. There really is something there, and a consciousness that somehow needs to be fixed, changed, saved, transformed, redeemed. And the answer lies in letting go of the idea of individual consciousness itself, which is the error. That's what he's really saying in this section. So don't study the error, just overlook it. And that's what the course aims at. It's aiming to teach you how to overlook the error rather than focus on the error and make it real. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Anything you want to add to that? Any questions on that? Paragraph 1?
Yes, very clear.
Yeah, I think so. So it's a nice introduction, this. And actually, very profound in paragraph 4. It's very profound. There's a wonderful section which I've quoted quite often. You're probably familiar with it because I've referred to it a couple of times in sessions. Okay, but still a couple of paragraphs to go to get there. So if you can read number 2, again in the original and the alternative, please.
All terms are potentially controversial, and those who seek controversy will find it. All terms are potentially controversial, and those who seek controversy will find it. Yet those who seek clarification will find it as well. Yet those who seek clarification will find it. They must, however, be willing to overlook controversy, recognizing that it is a defense against truth in the form of delaying maneuver. Yet those who seek, they must, however, be willing to overlook controversy, recognizing that it is a defense against truth in the form of a delaying maneuver. Theological considerations as such as necessarily controversial, since they depend on belief and can therefore be accepted or rejected. Theological considerations as such are necessarily controversial, since they depend on belief and can therefore be accepted or rejected. A universal theology is impossible, but universal experience is not only possible, but necessary. A universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience is not only possible, but necessary.
Very profound line, that, isn't it? I've quoted that before.
It is.
So he's saying that the
Experience.
theology, you know, there's always going to be dogma and disagreements. And if you
opinion.
go and if you enter the course, to study the course at that level, then yes, you'll find controversy, you'll find disagreement with other teachers, with other paths. And he's asking us to transcend that and go beyond it to a universal experience of truth, which is not only possible but necessary. And then, you know, you go beyond the theological considerations that seem to separate us, because there's only one experience of truth. And universally, if you look at history, throughout history, the mystics of every different spiritual tradition, and sometimes no spiritual tradition. You know, Eckhart Tolle wasn't spiritual. In fact, anything but that. He wasn't religious, he wasn't spiritual, he wasn't practicing spiritual practice, and yet he had an experience that was very similar to the experiences that have been reported by other people who have awoken. So it's a universal experience, and that's what he's directing us to. And then there's no disagreement. You know, you experience this peace of God that surpasses all understanding, as it's been phrased in words, and you know it experientially, and someone else has a similar experience, and there's no disagreement, is there? You're not going to disagree about the experience because it's a very similar experience.
Yeah.
There's only an agreement. Yeah, actually, I've experienced that too. I kind of get you. You know, you're my brother, my companion. Actually, we're on the same path, and we just had, you know, very similar experiences on the journey, which sort of indicates that it's a universal truth. Experience, you know, unites us, whereas theology separates us. And you know, so formal religion is typically caught up in theology. You know, there's various dogma. It's all a thought system. It's mental beliefs, dogma, and not an experience. And then you get all the separation that brings. And the mystics cut through all that and say, no, it's just an experience. You know, feel the love of God. My heart is beating in the peace of God, as you know, Yeshua said yesterday. This says lesson. It's very much a feeling rather than a theology. So he starts us off this course in the mind and saying, well, we need to look at perception, and you need to look at your belief system and start undoing that. But that's all leading us to a universal experience that is necessary if we're going to wake up to the truth. And then he says it is this experience towards which the course is directed, towards which is this experience. Maybe this would be better to say this experience. The course is designed to facilitate. Course is designed to facilitate this experience. And so you notice as we get deeper into it, we're now well into the second part of the workbook and the text as well. It starts to become more experiential, less wordy, more experience, which is in accordance with what he's saying. Okay, and then number 7, read that.
Here alone, consistency becomes possible, because here alone uncertainty ends. Here alone consistency becomes possible, because here alone uncertainty ends.
Okay, so read that from the top in the alternative.
All terms are potentially controversial, and those who seek controversy will find it. Yet those who seek clarification also will find it. However, they must be willing to overlook controversy, recognizing that it is a defense against truth in the form of a delaying maneuver. Theologically, considerations as such are necessarily controversial, since they depend on belief and can therefore be accepted or rejected. A universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience is not only possible but necessary. The course is designed to facilitate this experience. Here alone, consistency becomes possible, because here alone uncertainty ends.
Now, what's he saying in this one?
It's all about the experience. So you just need to cut through all the theological chit chat and dogma, and just it's leading us to the truth.
Now, as a felt experience in your own experience. So that's really what distinguishes the mystics from the theologians or the philosophers. It's like a mystic experiences the truth. The theologian conceptualizes the truth, thinks about the truth, writes about the truth, speaks about the truth, teaches the truth, sometimes very eloquently, but it's all conceptual. Philosophers, similar, very often very mental. So, okay, well, let's discuss and debate the truth and analyze it and pull it apart and write discourses about it and books about it. But do I really experience it firsthand for myself? Often not. The truth is just theoretical. Theo, it's still the same theology, theoretical. Theos actually comes from the Greek theos, which means God. So there's this idea of a conceptual God. God is somehow outside of you. You can conceptualize it. You have beliefs about it, dogmas. And then, of course, your belief about it might vary from another person's belief. You have different beliefs, and then you disagree because they say this and you say this, and then you say, well, we disagree. This isn't the same God. So now my belief, which I call a religion, is better than yours. And now, at the extreme of that, we identify so much with the belief that we think it's actually justified to attack and kill the other person because they believe differently, because they're the unbelievers or the heathens, and we have the truth. And that that's gone on throughout history.
Yeah.
The religious wars and stuff, all in the name of theology, which really, as he's saying, is just a device of the ego. It's a defense against the truth.
Which we all knew. We all know that deep down, but we just seem to get carried away with it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, because the ego mind likes anything that separates, keeps it separate. So people get attached to the dogma and they believe in it so blindly because it gives them some kind of security, some kind of faith in something. And if that starts to get challenged, then the ego gets threatened, and then they respond with attack, apparently in self-defense. Well, I'm actually defending my faith, defending the religion, and then of course, in the name of God, we can attack other people, as though the truth needs defense. But it's all then theological considerations that have nothing to do with the deeper truth, which can be experienced if you can go beyond that level of theology. And you saw I mentioned the story of Nicodemus with Yeshua. That's a classic demonstration there of one's a theologian.
Yeah.
He knows the theory very well. He studied it, but he doesn't really get it, doesn't really feel it and experience it. And he kind of knows that in his own mind and heart. He knows he's missing something. And then along comes, Yeshua, who isn't as qualified. He doesn't have chief rabbi status, and he hasn't studied the Torah for 40 years, or whatever Nicodemus had done. Much younger, but he has an experience. He feels the truth, and he brings that, in and through him, and works miracles. And Nicodemus is like, well, how on earth are you doing that? Because that shouldn't be possible. But I've witnessed it. You did heal Mary Magdalene, for example. So how's that possible? And he's fascinated because he wants that experience. We all have a deep need for that experience. We all ultimately want to become, mystics and experience God for ourselves. That's the deepest calling of every human being. But that's resisted in most people quite strongly by the ego that says, no, 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 you don't want that experience. Stay in your theology, stay in your dogma, because there's security and safety there. And that gives you some kind of identity. It gives you some kind of foundation for your life. And that this is why, these belief systems, they tend to attract followers who are quite, they blindly believe. They just kind of follow on, and because they want to, they're looking for some kind of security. And the religion attracts them because it offers them that and says, look, just believe this. You're saved by Jesus. All you have to do is accept that, and then you're saved and you go to heaven. And, if you just believe that, then it's so. And it's a kind of easy way, back to God, back to heaven. And they want to believe it so desperately that that they cling to it, and they don't question it and say, well, does that actually make any sense? Does that really work experientially? What do I feel about that? Does that really help me to feel the love of God, or do I just feel some kind of false sense of security, and then actually underlying it there's doubt, and so then if it gets challenged, I tend to react defensively or in anger? Really, is this really what it is? So to become a mystic, you have to question the dogma, which is why all the mystics generally go against the religion of their time. Yeshua did it, the Buddha did it. They say, no, this isn't the way. And they say there's another way. And of course, the religious order of the time, religious orders don't like that, and often then attack them and abuse them and vilify them because they don't want their dogma challenged, because it challenges their status and position as some kind of powerful arbiters of the truth, which people are now going to go to and say, well, you give me the truth. You're the intermediary to God, and I can't find God directly. So, you as the teacher, guru, rabbi, priest, whatever, will you tell me? And that, of course, gives them a sense of power and a status in their ego identity, and they don't want to let go of that. And actually, they block themselves off from a much deeper experience, a mystic experience of truth, which is mind-blowing and awesome by comparison to that very, limited experience the ego gives them. So yeah, that's in a nutshell what he's talking about here. We can go on and we can talk about it all night. It's a very interesting topic, but it's the difference between a theologian or philosopher and a mystic, and he's trying to make us all into mystics. He's saying the course is designed to facilitate that experience for you and make you into a mystic like he was, like the Buddha was, like all the great masters were, because they had a direct experience of the truth. And from my own perspective, I can absolutely attest to that. When I had an experience of this awareness, which I then subsequently labeled pure, formless awareness of perfect love, because I couldn't think of a better name for it. It was a revelation. It completely altered my understanding. Before that, a lot of my understanding was conceptual. Yes, I knew the theory of the course. I'd read the teachings. I could understand it intellectually. I could explain it. But did I have a deeper experience of it? Certainly not as deep as when I had that that mystic experience. It definitely showed me something that I just hadn't got before, and I understood in that moment. It was like the whole course just downloaded. it was quite extraordinary. Like, I just get it. Boom. It kind of just drops in. And I understand this now on a deeper level than I could ever have done with potentially, many, many more hours of studying, just studying the words and trying to understand it intellectually. It was like a breakthrough Satori moment, as they call it in Zen, of insight brought about by the altered state of being in pure formless awareness. And then, thereafter, this Art of Letting Go course in the community really started in earnest. It was like I almost needed that experience to be able to take people deeper into their own truth, because I'd experienced it. Okay, so that's what he's saying. It's the experience rather than the theology, and so try and move beyond the dogma into experience where we can unite with anyone for whatever they're, even if they don't believe in the non-dual teachings of the course. If they have that experience of the love of God, then there's not much to disagree about, because we both share that experience. All roads lead to God, as he says, and so the dogma and how you get there doesn't really matter. And once you attain the experience, you're there, you're home in that experience. And so there's a unity then of thought and of belief that comes with the experience. Okay, so number 3. You can read that in the original alternative.
This course remains within ego framework where it is needed. This course remains within the belief in separation framework where it is needed. It is not concerned with what is beyond all error, because it is planned only to set the direction towards it. It is not concerned with what is beyond all error, because it is planned only to set the direction towards it. Therefore, it uses words which are symbolic and cannot express what lies beyond symbols. Therefore, it uses words which are symbolic and cannot express what lies beyond symbols. It is merely the ego that questions, because it is only the ego that doubts. It is only the belief in separation that questions, because it is only the belief in separation that doubts. The Course merely gives another answer once a question has been raised. The Course merely gives another answer once a question has been raised. However, this answer does not attempt to resort to inventiveness or ingenuity. However, this answer does not attempt to resort to inventiveness or ingenuity. These are attributes of the ego. These are the attributes of the belief in separation. The Course is simple. The Course is simple. It has one function and one goal. It has one function and one goal. Only in that it remain wholly consistent, because only that can be consistent. Only in that does it remain wholly consistent, because only that can be consistent.
Make it this instead of that. Okay, so read it from the top in the alternative.
This course remains within the belief in separations framework where it is needed. It is not concerned with what is beyond all error, because it planned only to set the direction towards it. Therefore, it uses words which are symbolic and cannot express what lies beyond symbols. It is only the belief in separation that questions, because it's only the belief in separation that doubts. Once a question has been asked, the Course merely gives another answer. However, the answer does not attempt to resort inventiveness or ingenuity. These are attributes of the belief in separation. The Course is simple. It has one function and one goal. Only in this does it remain wholly consistent, because only this can be consistent.
Yeah, so what's he saying in this one?
Well, the Course is going within the belief in separations framework, but it's not concerned with what's beyond, because it's going to use words which are symbolic. It's the belief in separation, the only one that can question, and the belief in separation is that has the doubts. So yeah, once a question has been asked, the Course merely gives another answer. So the Course is simple. There's one function and one goal, and that is we're heading towards awakening.
Yeah.
Through these words.
Consistent because of that. One simple goal, one simple function. And that cuts through all the ego's complexity and difficulty. It says, ignore all that. So there's only one purpose, one function, one purpose, one goal. That's to awaken from the dream of separation, awaken from the dream of being a separate self to the truth of who you really are. And that's all you're here to do. Your life, should be dedicated to that. And all the other purposes and functions that the ego has given you are really just illusory deceptions to prevent you from finding the one function and the one goal that you should adopt. So he's asking us to just to clarify, to be very simple. Listen to what the Course is saying. Simplify our lives into, well, I've really only got one function and one goal, despite all the different functions and different goals that seem to be given to me in this world, which the ego tempts me with. Actually, there's only one that means anything, and that's to awaken to who I really am, to know myself. And that will help me to escape from the dream and go back home to true reality. It's the same. Awakening is knowing yourself, is letting go of the dream, is letting go, of the ego, letting go of the separate self, letting go of this whole world. It's all the same. And that's your one function and your one goal. Okay. Happy with number 3?
Yes, yes.
4.
The ego will demand many answers that this Course does not give. The belief in separation will demand many answers that this Course does not give. It does not recognize as questions the mere form of a question to which an answer is impossible. It does not recognize as questions the mere form of a question to which an answer is impossible. The ego may ask, how did the impossible occur? To what did the impossible happen? And may ask this in many forms. The belief in separation may ask, how did the impossible occur? To what did the impossible happen? And may ask this in many forms. Yet there is no answer, only an experience. Yet there is no answer, only an experience. Seek only this, and do not let theology delay you. Seek only this, and do not let theology delay me.
I will seek only this and not let theology delay me. So, if you recall, I've referred to this paragraph before. Whenever anyone asks the question, well, so how did the separation happen? Why did the separation happen?
Go on forever.
This is the answer. He's giving us the answer, isn't he?
Mm.
How did that impossible thing occur? To what did the impossible happen? And they ask this in many forms.
Yeah.
Right? So all variations of the question. Yes, but like, how did this happen? People say, like, it's not supposed to have happened. It's not supposed to be real. But how did it happen?
Yeah, we all ask that
And of
question.
course, by questioning it, what you're doing is you're making it real, aren't you?
Yeah.
The question assumes that it has happened. How did it happen assumes that it has happened. Which, of course, is the problem. It's a assumptive question. You've assumed it's happened.
Yeah.
And then the answer can only be dictated within the framework that the question is set. So how did it happen? Well, then the answer comes, well, this is how it happened. You had the tiny mad idea of separation. Okay, so it all happened. So that reinforces in your mind that separation really happened. And, you know,
isn't it?
so its reality is confirmed. And what he's trying to do here is point us beyond that and say, well, actually, just start recognizing the simple truth that it never did happen. Right? The impossible never did happen. What you're experiencing is impossible. It's just a dream. And you can awaken from the dream because it never really happened. That's what he's trying to help us to understand.
Mm.
So instead of asking these questions, which are endless, but how did that happen? Instead of asking that question, which isn't very helpful because it doesn't help you to transcend the belief in the ego, it just makes it real. You just say, well, it didn't really happen. And let me go rather invite the experience of what is transcendent, something that transcends that egoic belief. And let me invite that experience into my experience now in my spiritual practice, my meditation, and my daily life, so that I can start experiencing the truth that, yeah, actually, it didn't really happen. And I'm experiencing the reality of that right now in my own mind, because I'm actually free of the ego in this moment. I'm not thinking about separation. I'm not believing in it. I'm not asking about it and doubting and questioning. I'm just experiencing the love of God. The peace of God, as it's been called in the Bible, peace of God that surpasses all understanding. Because it's not intellectual understanding that will get you there. Theology won't get you there. It's a mystic experience of what it feels like. Will get you there. And then you're like, well, actually, all of those doubts and the intellect can't really help me to solve the problem. It can take me so far, can help me to understand things like the tiny mad idea and this descent into hell, and it's all intellect. And he addresses that, and he helps us start there and understand it. But to go beyond this idea of separation and this whole construct of thought is an experience. When you actually have this experience of pure formless awareness of perfect love, and you in that experience you have transcended this thought system. You've gone away from it, outside of it. It's disappeared for that time. Then you know experientially that it is possible to be outside of its thought system, that there is another reality because you've experienced it. See? And so that's what the course is directed towards. It's saying to facilitate this experience and give you an experience that is totally beyond the idea of separation, because then you know experientially that actually, yes, there is another reality, and because I've experienced it. And then I don't doubt anymore. I don't question how is that, how is it possible? And because I've actually experienced it, and I'm just in that transcendent experience is the answer. That's what he's saying, rather than in the ongoing questioning of why the separation happened and how could this happen. That just roots you still into the egoic mind, the limited mind. He's pointing us to the experience of pure formless, the oneness of perfect love that transcends that mind entirely, which is why he says that there is no answer, just an experience. And the Course doesn't give those answers, which is why some people find it frustrating. That there is no answer, only an experience. I will seek only this and not let theology delay me. So a very important section. It's an introduction, so I want to cover it because he's giving us, he's laying it out and saying this is how you're going to wake up. Don't expect to stay at the intellectual level and awaken, because you're not. You'll just keep asking these questions over and over. And some people do get stuck there. I've seen it in the community. John's had difficulty with it, a couple of other people. It's like, okay, but you've got to let the question go and invite an experience instead. Because that's the answer lies in the experience.
Mm. Well, when I was younger, I used to drive myself mad asking these questions. In the end, I just thought, oh, I'm never going to get an answer, so I just let it go. But I didn't actually invite the experience of the pure formless awareness, which is, unfortunately, I didn't have a trained mind then, but certainly I used to be always questioning, what on earth is all of this? Yeah.
And that's a starting point. I mean, it's where we all start, because, you question, and the intellectual mind is very, in Western society is very developed. And so you start there. And so that's where he meets us. He says, okay, so I know you've got all these questions. So, he addresses these questions in the Course, and he takes us through this whole process of unwinding that intellectual mind until eventually it kind of breaks your intellect. You just go, like, I give up.
Had enough.
And that's the whole point.
Yeah.
I've had enough. It's too complex and too mind-blowing and too difficult. And and that's what he's actually trying to do. He's trying to facilitate a deconstruction of that intellectual mind, so that eventually we just go, enough already. I'm just
book after book.
I want something else.
Yeah, you read lots of books.
Book after book.
Yep.
Theory after theory, and eventually it's like, what? I want something more. Got to be more than just the intellectual understanding, and which still poses all kinds of questions. And then once you've gone through that mill, often you're ready for a mystic experience. Because your intellectual mind's been kind of broken down, and you've opened up to something beyond. When you give up, that's when you awaken. The Buddha was a classic example. He was really dedicated to awakening. He wanted to do everything, so he was practicing diligently and arduously, and he was meditating for hours and hours, and he was starving himself, and he was really striving and just seeking this enlightenment for 7 years, and it was elusive. He couldn't find it because he was still in his questioning mind. He was still seeking that which was something outside of him, and you'll never find it. And it's only when he gave up and went, you know what, I'm just so tired. I'm nearly dead. I'm so tired of the search. You can imagine, just like a giving up, a letting go. And he just sat under this tree and he let go, and it was like, there it is. There's the experience I've been seeking all the time. And it's now just arisen when I've completely let go of all attempt to find it and try to understand it intellectually and figure it out. Then it comes, because it's beyond the intellect. So he's taking us through a kind of that process. He's saying, okay, well, I'm going to give you all the lessons, and you're going to practice diligently and be a good student, and you're going to work through the text, and there are going to be times when you think you're very smart and you kind of get it, and then at some point you go, actually, I don't get anything. Actually, I'm still clueless. After 10 years of studying this book, I had that experience. Like, I've studied this thing for hours and hours for 10 years, and I'm still actually pretty clueless. I still don't know really what it means. It's very humbling.
Yeah.
But then you're actually starting to make progress because your ego is being humbled, and you're no longer kind of having some identification with the course and your intellect and, oh, I'm so smart because I know this high level course and I can explain it better than anyone else, and then have some identification as a teacher of it and so on. And all of that is just ego bullshit. It's nonsense. It's not true. It's not who you are. And so I think every student and who become a teacher of the course has to kind of work through that. It's a phase of your growth and awakening, and probably necessary. Eventually you're like, okay, that's not going to do it. That's not the truth. And actually, I don't really understand anything. And there's a humility then that opens you up to the experience, the universal experience he's talking about. So it's a process. Sometimes you've got to. I mean, it took me 10 years really to start understanding this course at any kind of deep level. 10 years, and I was a pretty diligent student. I was studying it every day, and I'm doing my lessons every day, and I'm reading the text. And I must have read the text 2 or 3 times. In that time, I listened a lot. I listened to the audio. Just listened to the audio when I was out on walks, and so I was probably spending at least an hour or 2 a day studying this. And yet, it still took me 10 years because the ego is so resistant to awakening.
Yeah.
That it's like it's got this. You don't know what you don't know. You're kind of blocked and stuck, and you don't know it. And I remember, like, I'm kind of getting it, but I'm just not getting it, and but I kept at it. I kept persisting. It was like hammering away at a stone. If you want to crack a big stone, you just chisel away at it, hammer it away, and maybe on the 1000th blow, it might crack, and then you've got a crack, and then you can take a chisel and you can start deconstructing the whole stone. But it might take 1000 blows of the hammer before anything actually manifests, and you've got a crack. It was sort of that process. So it can take a long time to break down the structure of the ego. And it also took some kind of crisis in my life. Probably wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had an extremely challenging life situation at the time. That was part of it, because you need that pressure to really kind of that pressure cracks you open almost. Like without any pressure on a shell, the egg doesn't crack, does it? You have to put enough pressure to crack it. It's the same idea. You crack it open, and then the essence sort of starts shining through, and it gets a bit messy, just like an egg yolk. It's like it can go all over the place and can get quite messy, and you can go like, what the hell's going on? Is this really, because the egg wants to stay intact, but you kind of crack the shell, and the destiny of every egg is to be cracked open, one way or another. Either a chick's going to be born or someone's going to eat it. That's its purpose, that's its destiny, but it wants to remain in its unawakened state, just as an egg with the shell intact. There's always that resistance to the change, and so if you're diligent and you just practice and you practice, and then life will find a way. You often get exactly the experiences in life that help you awaken. And so you can apply the teachings, and a combination of the theory and the practice and your life experience is what awakens you. And so it's your hero's journey. It's your unique journey of awakening. And there's no one else who's going to have exactly the same journey. The unique way you did it, when you did it, that you might be studying, the same course, the Course in Miracles, but how you experience it and how it helps you awaken is going to be different from someone else's experience. So it's your unique hero's journey and your special function, and that's what he's leading us to through the study and the practice of the workbook, study of the text and these other sections, and the practice of the workbook. Okay, so that's just my own kind of experience of it. But
That's good.
it's very helpful. That's why I'm doing the
It
introduction.
is other people's
Understand
experience.
a little bit of the structure of like, okay, saying, you know, how does this process, this is like process, how does this actually work? And he's he gives these instructions from time to time in the text as well in the workbook. It's like, okay, let's talk more about the process and of this, at-one-ment, this awakening process, so that you can understand it better. Because when it starts happening to you, it's like you don't know what's happening. Even when you kind of know, I sort of had some idea, okay, this is probably what awakening is conceptually, theoretically. When it's actually happening to you, it feels very disturbing. Like your whole structure of your self-concept is being challenged, your whole life's being turned upside down. You wonder if you're going crazy. You wonder how you're ever going to get through
Yeah,
this. Thoughts of just ending it and killing yourself come in almost inevitably because you're like, can I even
right.
handle it?
Yeah,
And so it's all very, can be very difficult and confusing. And this is why, guidance is helpful. You have the course guiding you through, and he's giving you these teachings, and then sometimes teachers who've been through it before you are very helpful, because it's like, oh, it's okay. In the Eastern tradition particularly, they would have the guru, and the guru has been there and he's done it and he's been through that process, and then his disciples, his students going through that, and he goes, oh, it's okay, it's all okay, it's normal. That's what happens. And the student goes, oh, okay, really? So I'm not going crazy and freaking out and having a psychotic breakdown. No, that's part of what awakening is. And the guru teaches him and guides him through it. And that's really helpful. Now, in the Western tradition, unless you find an authentic guru, a teacher, that's not the case. What generally happens is you are diagnosed with some kind of psychosis, and they put
mm,
you on some kind of drug. The psychiatrists go, "Oh, this is mental illness. Oh,
and
we need to
yeah,
stop this." So they drug you, and of course that stops the awakening
doesn't it
because
just
you
adds
just
another layer
numb
on?
you numb it up.
Yeah, it's just blocking
You,
it.
you you
Yeah,
can't then go through that process to kind of come up the other side and go, actually, I've now, awoken, or mostly awoken, and I have some ability to function beyond this. So whereas in the original shamanic traditions, they understood this. They would be like, okay, this is actually quite normal. It's part of awakening, and the shaman would then guide their student through it and initiate them into this, and help them to learn and get through a very difficult time, with their wisdom and their guidance, and then they would then become the next shaman because they'd been guided through it by the mentor, who was the existing shaman who'd also been through it, and had been guided through it by theirs, and so on, and so it's passed from generation to generation,
mm,
and that just has been lost in the West largely. So then we have this, crazy system to replace it of psychiatry, which says, "Oh, no, this needs to be stopped. So let's drug you, um, and prevent this spiritual awakening. Let's not recognize what's really going on. Let's just diagnose it as some kind of psychosis. You're mentally ill, and now you're going to be drugged to high heaven, and you're not going to know what the hell's going on. So there's no way you can integrate that and journey through it and work through it, and you just get stuck in this sort of um, prematurely paused spiritual awakening, and now you're drugged to high heaven, and so you don't know what the hell's going on. I listened to There was a talk on this on YouTube, and the guy had gone into these shamanic cultures and studied it, and then he said, but in the West, and he contrasted it with some experiences of similar type people who are very, very spiritually open, and they have these kind of awakenings, and then they just don't know how to cope with them. They don't have a mentor to guide them through it like they do in the shamanic cultures. And then they go to a psychiatrist, and it's just an absolute mess. The one guy was like, he said, at some point I was on 15 drugs, and I didn't know whether I was coming or going. I was totally drugged out of my mind. I had no and reality just deconstructed. I couldn't get a grip on it, and
Mm.
I just,
I
the
see.
wheels
That way.
fell off. And
Yeah.
because he didn't know anymore, well, what was the drug and what's me? What's actually a genuine kind
Yeah.
of feeling, emotion I need to work through? And what's now drug induced? You don't know. You get confused, of course, because the
Mm.
drug is affecting the biochemistry and then will affect your thoughts and emotions. And so you then, it completely sabotages this process of, okay, well, let's work through it just with awareness, so
Mm.
be aware of what's true and what's not, and be able to distinguish them, and work through it, and learn how to overcome the difficulty. The drugs completely kibosh
So,
that process, because you have no ability to be aware anymore. And sadly, apparently, the guy ended up on that particular individual ended up on the street because he just couldn't put it together and function normally anymore. It's like I just couldn't handle it, and he was failed by the system. The correct system would have said, "Okay, you have some psychic ability. Right, we'll put you into a system that can help you to deal with that. You've got a mentor and a guide who's been through it before, and we'll actually help you to process this, and you can become a powerful healer. These people have abilities. You can then be like the shaman of the tribe, who is the most important person in the tribe, and you can help people. You can be a healer, you can be a counselor, you can be a guide, and you have a value in society if you're able to go through this awakening process, and you can be truly useful and valuable. With the process you've got to go through. In the West we don't have that, unless they're fortunate
you
enough
get
to find
lost.
a
You get
spiritual
lost. Or
guide.
homeless. Yeah.
You just get lost in a system that doesn't understand. Scientific materialism, which is what psychiatry is based on, does not understand spiritual awakening because it's denied the interior domain of consciousness, that you're awakening to. So how can it help you? And it can't, because it's actually denied that even exists. It's basically said this quadrant doesn't really exist. We give some idea of a mind, but really the mind is now controlled by the body. So that's why the philosophy is, well, drug people, that changes the biochemistry, which then changes the thoughts and the emotions and the perceptions. But the philosophy is all upside down. It's saying that your body and your biochemistry are primary, and this is very secondary. This is like a side effect of your biochemistry, when actually the reverse is true. Your mind is primary, and what's going on here is absolutely who you are, and that is what influences the biochemistry of the body primarily.
Yeah.
And so it's the tail wagging the dog in psychiatry, rather than the dog being the mind wagging the tail. Totally upside down thought system. And of course then you get these terribly distorted, dysfunctional results as a result, because it's not true. It's not based on truth. And this just sets the matter straight and says, well, this is primary reality, and that's what the Course addresses. And then you let secondary reality in the exterior, in terms of your body and your behavior, that follows from the primary, the change of mind. So to seek not to change the world, the external, in these exterior quadrants, but seek to change your mind about the world, because this is where primary reality is. And then this will actually influence secondary reality via this miraculous process, because the mind is connected to the exterior and it influences it. And then that feeds back into the primary and says, oh, actually that worked. So clearly there's something going on here. There is a power that I'm accessing that must be real, because I'm seeing its effects in the exterior. And so you start using the interaction between the interior and exterior quadrants consciously and well, rather than that example I gave you is just how not to do it. What a disaster, and it didn't serve that person at all. But if he'd had the right kind of teaching, the right mindset to deal with that apparent problem, he could have grown through it and evolved into a teacher, a healer, a counselor, someone who was really quite powerful and useful to other people. what a tragedy that the system failed.
Yeah.
So, fortunately, we now have a course in discipline, detailed mind training. It's like, well, if you follow the course and you don't allow yourself to get sucked into, any of the other paths, and psychiatry and psychology, and just, deal with it through this. And that's what I did. I could have, other people might have gone, oh, I'm having some kind of breakdown. Let me go to a psychologist. Let me seek some kind of help in the medical system. And fortunately, I was like, no, I'm not even going there. This is like, I know how to get through this. I've got to get through this with this teaching and my spiritual practices. I've got to go deeper into that. That was very obvious to me. Because I recognized that system just was dysfunctional. It couldn't help me. They would just, distract.
Yeah, I agree totally.
Distract me from, the ultimate purpose. And I kind of went, okay, this is what awakening is. Suck it up and take it. You've got to get through this. And what's going to get you through this is being very disciplined in your practice. You've got to get a lot more disciplined in applying this course, understanding it better by actually applying it in your spiritual practice. More meditation. For a few years, I didn't meditate very much because we had a son and family, and I just couldn't find the time. And there's no doubt that it affected me. And so almost, the going away and going back to South Africa was necessary to heal. It was a healing process. I had to go within, and I had to restore my psyche to its essence by having time out and time alone, and being able to do my spiritual practice and immerse myself really in this course through the development of this course and the teaching of it. I studied for hours and hours and hours and hours over 5 years, and that has definitely healed a lot of that trauma that I went through. And then that's the way to do it. You overcome it by going deeper into your spiritual practice, saying the answer is there, the answer is within me, but I have to do some work to uncover it. And the course is a mind training course par excellence that will help you to do that. If you're disciplined and diligent in it, it will help you to do that and overcome any challenge in your life, and come out the other side as a much more awakened, whole, complete person who's then able to handle. I was like, okay, well, I've been through that. If you look at the hero's journey, it explains it quite well. I've been through that awakening process, and now I come out the other side, and I return to society, as a transformed individual who's able to help others. And that's exactly, what my path was. So I've been through this myself. When I was going through it, I just couldn't teach. Really, I ran like one breathwork meditation class a week. That was it. Because I felt like I couldn't deal with more. It was like that was difficult. But it was a process. And then it's like, okay, then there's a time when it comes back and you're like, now I return to the normal world, but I return with a higher perspective, and now I can help others to go through the same journey I went through. And that's generally what happens with the hero's journey. Someone who's been through it then becomes a teacher, a guide, a mentor for others on the journey, and facilitates their journey. And so we have this interlocking chain of hero's journeys, which is the at-one-ment process. When all of those start to interlock, it facilitates individuals' awakenings. And if that starts gaining momentum, the whole of society can awaken, because it becomes like a chain reaction of interlocking heroes' journeys, and each one touches off another one. And somehow, the miraculous thing about it is somehow the spirit coordinates it all. It's like, it will bring whoever you need into your journey at the right time as a mentor or guide, them having, done their journey. Example, me and you, just it's like I've come into your experience as a result of my experience to help you on your hero's journey, and you might play the same role for others in time, and so so it goes.
Yeah, it's quite amazing.
And that's pretty miraculous. You go, wow, that's I can't really design that. No one can consciously go, oh well, I think I'll just manifest a a mentor at this point in my journey. It doesn't work that way, does it? It just happens.
It
The
does, yeah.
mentor
Course
comes
it,
when you're ready. That's why it says,
yeah,
that's
it
saying when the
comes naturally, yeah,
student is ready, the teacher appears.
yeah, true.
And so that's the miraculous path we all on. And Spirit somehow finds a way to bring exactly the mentors, the guides, the trials, the
Try
tests,
certainly getting
but
those as well. Yeah,
everything that's happening for you in your journey to awaken you. It's all happening
yeah,
for you.
yeah, of
And
course.
never given a test without the ability to get through it. There'll always be a helper, a guide. I mean, example, the other night, we didn't do a session. You reached out to me.
Oh, yes, yeah,
okay. And there's the help. You're
yeah,
never going to be not when you're on this path, not be given the help that you need to overcome any test, which is very comforting. It's like, yeah, I will be tested, and there'll be times where it can seem to be really challenging and overwhelming, but there will always be a way
yeah,
to overcome that. And I trust in that because the power of spirit is with me. And this is a power much greater than the ego's power. So it's always got its answer to whatever the ego dishes up. You're never bereft, you're never left alone in the journey. And once you start learning that experientially by going through the journey, by going through these stages, you develop this confidence. You come up the other side and you go, well, actually, I'm kind of bulletproof. It doesn't matter where I am and what's going on and what the challenge is. I know that this great power is with me. I just have to call on it, and then there's an answer. And
wonderful.
I learned that. I trust that. That's why in the manual for teachers, which we'll do after the clarification for terms, is the development of trust. His journey of awakening, the hero's journey, he calls the development of trust, because you must develop the trust to trust in this power no matter what, and have absolute faith in it no matter what. So it's the development of your own trust in God, in this unknown power. For most people it's unknown, and to start to know that power is with you always, has never left you, and will always help you. And whatever the situation is, you can just ask for the help and the guidance, and it will give it to you. And then there's no reason to fear, is there? Then you walk the world in a state of trust and confidence and peace, because well, everything's gonna be okay. Even if there's a challenge, it's actually all okay because it's part of the process. I get it. It's meant to test me. This is a trial. Okay, it's another test. All right, well, I ask for the guidance, I ask for the support, and it comes. And I find it, and I overcome the challenge, and I grow to a higher level. And that is an inspiring and inspired and inspiring way to live your life, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
As a hero, living your hero's journey and helping others to live their own hero's journeys as well. And that really, yes, you're saying that's your only purpose. You're only here to awaken. You're only here to take your own hero's journey. That's why you're here. There's no other purpose. Not everyone's going to agree with that. I've had many disagreements with people close in my life, say, no, this isn't how it is. It's another way. And I'm like, no, it's your only purpose is to awaken. It's not primarily to be a husband or a parent or whatever the role is. It's not primarily to do that. That's not what it is. It's to awaken to who you really are, and your primary responsibility is to do that. Then you are following God's will. Otherwise, you're denying it. Maybe it's quite subtle, but you're denying it, and you will suffer, and you also deny others, the benefit of your awakening. Because the only way they're going to awaken is if other people awake. You can be a mentor and a guide in someone else's hero's journey. And it's a very important philosophical understanding.
It does make sense, because we've all got things that we aspire to. Mine was always, I must get as much knowledge as possible. And now I just think, what's the point of all this knowledge and certificates? Pointless.
Yeah.
This makes
we all have our ego. The ego gives everyone a purpose, because that's what it does.
Yeah.
But your hero's journey is to awaken from that purpose, the ego's purpose, and awaken to your true purpose, which is to wake up to who you really are. That's all you're here for. And that's why I'm saying there's one
Makes more
function,
sense.
there's
Yeah.
one goal. There's no other goal. Everything else serves that. Yes, you still have these temporary roles. It doesn't mean, you stop being a partner, a parent,
Or your job,
an
maybe.
employee, a business owner. Those roles continue, but they
Yeah.
are secondary. The role is not why you're here. Why you're here is to awaken to who you are, really, and then
Makes more sense. Yeah.
to take that true self, the Christ, into those roles and say, well, let my true self do that role, because it's going to do it much better than my ego can ever do it.
Yeah.
And then
Makes
it
more
accepts
sense.
and expresses through your life. And sometimes that means that you go against the grain. You don't necessarily do what everyone else wants you to do, because that doesn't your hero's journey. That's quite common, and a lot of spiritual teachers and people who've awoken, they don't follow the normal program. They're outliers in society. They do something different, and people say, well, why are you doing that? And you're a rebel, or you get, you're a lost cause, or whatever. But they're actually going on this profound hero's journey to awaken to themselves, and then they come back into the society with this higher knowledge, and that is what the society needs to take it forward. Look at Yeshua as an example, right? Totally outlier in that society. It was way off the charts outlier. Most people didn't understand him. He's like, where does this guy come from? He's teaching stuff that is not in our tradition. It's not in our religion. He's doing these miracles. He's just way out there, but he's advancing the understanding. He's progressing the awakening through doing that, by breaking down the normal structures and the dogmas and challenging them. And that's what all the great masters have done. Buddha did it as well in his life. He challenged the existing Hindu dogma. He said, hang on, you guys aren't really getting it. You teach this stuff, but you're not really experiencing it. And so there's another way, called it the middle way. They show a higher way, another way. Yeshua said, there's another way than the Judaic law. There's this one-ment. There's forgiveness and awakening. He showed people another way. He said, the only way to the Father is through me. That's how he expressed it. Through the Christ, that's what he meant. Through identifying with the Christ, which he symbolized. That's the way to awaken to your source. So and you start to see, we spent quite a lot of time on this, but we're talking about the whole journey. We're talking about the structure of the journey, your hero's journey,
makes sense.
awakening.
It does make sense, yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And you see, like a conception like the hero's journey just symbolizes that. It's the archetypal journey. That's why it's been so recognized and adopted, because this is actually what everyone is doing. This is the awakening journey. It's what we're here to do. And he's just put it into a diagram, and then you break it down into the 12 acts, and you can see these stages and say, that is actually what we're all here to do. A lot of people don't do it, sadly, because they get stuck in the normal world, and they don't listen to the call, and they don't go beyond the normal world and break through into the unknown world and go on this profound adventure, which is challenging. It's difficult. My life has been difficult by comparison with, say, other people.
The 9 to 5ers. Yeah, you're 9 to 5.
Difficult. I've had lots of challenges, lots of difficulty that they haven't necessarily experienced. No doubt they've had other difficulties. But because I've been like, no, actually my purpose is awakening. So it puts you in situations that most people are like, oh my goodness, how are you dealing with that? And yet somehow you do, because you've learned that there's a power, beyond just you, that's helping you, and you learn to call on that, and you learn to overcome your own fears and doubts, and eventually it leads you to the death of the ego and the rebirth into your true self. which I've been through as well, and that is traumatic. I mean, that was horrible. I can't say it was a nice experience. It
No,
really was horrible, but okay, that's what you've
it's what was
got to let
needed.
go of this insane, vicious entity that's been running your mind and your life, not just for this lifetime, but for many lifetimes. So there's a struggle and a battle to let that go. But when you do, and that 1 month on the other side is like, oh, okay, this is actually what I was seeking all the time. Just
Yes.
I didn't know it. You don't know it until you get there. But there's something in us that calls us to that awakened state. That's the Holy Spirit. So yeah, it's all, this introduction is all pointing us to this hero's journey, to the awakened state. It's telling us that ultimately theology won't get you there. It's only your own experience that will get you there. That's what the hero's journey is telling us as well. Which comes, remember, from Joseph Campbell. This was before the course was ever written. He died, I think, in 1980 something. All of his teachings came before that, but just another channel, the same Holy Spirit just coming through him, saying, right, this stuff needs to go into the world so that people start to understand this. And if you can understand your own awakening process, it's much easier to deal with it, because you're like, actually, I'm not alone. This isn't abnormal. This is a process that I'm going through, and I recognize it's a stage. I'm going through another stage. You're going through the death of the ego. It feels awful, but okay, I can realize that's what everyone has to go through. It's what all the masters went through, and it wouldn't have been easy for them either. That's not recorded. The mental and emotional difficulty is not recorded in the scriptures. And say, oh yeah, Yeshua. Well, it says Yeshua was tempted by the devil, and there's a few paragraphs on his temptation, but he might have gone through extreme anguish for 40 days to break through. You don't know what his personal experience of actually breaking through into Christ consciousness entailed. 40 days of meditation, and starving himself in the desert. That's pretty extreme. He would have gone through some probably pretty extreme experiences as part of his awakening. Maybe hallucinations, going to altered states, all of that, because that's what happens if you deprived of food, possibly probably dehydrated. You go into altered states, and that's when these kind of visions happen. But he's willing to put himself through that to awaken to the Christ consciousness that he was, because that was what the Spirit called him to do. So go into the desert and sit there until, I think, he broke through the conundrum. He broke through from the intellect into an experience, and he learned this experientially, exactly what he's saying here. He's saying, get over the questions. I think he understood that it wasn't about questioning anymore. It was just about experiencing, and that's what he did when he did the 40 days. Went beyond dogma into experience, and then was able to come back into the society and teach from that experience. That experience in the desert was then the catalyst. He did a death and a rebirth there, was reborn as the Christ, and then he came back and he returned into the society, and he was then the Christ, and became a great teacher, an agent for change in that society. Brought the gifts, from his own spiritual journey back into that society, and then into the whole world. His experience has benefited countless millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people around the world, because he's brought that experience back to us. And that's, most people don't necessarily influence that many people. He was quite extraordinary in that respect, but that can happen. Who knows? Who knows what your journey will do? One doesn't know. Can't limit the Spirit. No. So the Spirit's will is that's what your life is going to be used for. So be it. Okay. I don't think Yeshua would have gone, oh, well, I want to have an impact on billions of people over 2,000 years. I think he just followed the Spirit. It's like, okay, this is what I need to do next.
Just keep open, yeah.
Stay open. No, not my will, as expressed in the saying, not my will, but thy will be done.
Yeah.
That's the statement of surrender. Okay, so number 5, short
Yeah.
paragraph. Finish it.
Yeah. You will notice that the emphasis on structural issues in the course is brief and early. I will notice that the emphasis on structural issues in the course is brief and early. Afterwards and soon, it drops away to make way for the central teaching. Afterwards and soon, it drops away to make way for the central teaching. Since you have
These
asked
drop
for...
away, maybe.
Yeah. Since you have asked for clarification, however, these are some of the terms that are used. Since I have asked for clarification, these are some of the terms that are used.
Yeah. So I think Helen and Bill, asked Yeshua, having done this would have been given after the text, I think. Having gone through that, they kind of said, well, what does this mean? Can we have some clarity on some of these terms? And what does mind mean? What does spirit mean? And so then he gave this in response to that. And these are some of the terms that are used, which are just designed to help us in that journey of understanding, and ultimately going beyond intellectual understanding to experiential knowing. That's what he's pointing us to. So it's important not to get too hung up on the terms. Okay, well, it doesn't really matter that much if you don't fully understand it, or your understanding isn't quite in alignment with what he's saying, or because in the end, it's an experience that it's leading to, and that's what's important. So, go beyond the theological considerations. Okay, so just a short executive summary if you want to read that.
This course I am undertaking is not about philosophical musings or exact terminology. It focuses on the correction of perception through the process of letting go. The detailed structure of individual consciousness is not essential here. It's a representation of the original error. My task is not to study the error, but to learn to overlook it. All terms can be contentious, but if I seek clarity and I'm willing to bypass controversy, I'll find it. The goal is a universal experience, not a universal theology. This course operates within the framework of the belief in separation to guide me towards what is beyond all error, using symbolic words that can't fully capture what lies beyond.
Okay, so what's he saying that one?
Well, it's a mind training course, and it's not about the philosophical terminology. It focuses on correction, and the process is letting go, and the task is not to study the error, but to learn to overlook it.
And it's given within the framework of separation.
Right.
So
yes.
it's useful here. Well, yeah, what it's pointing to is beyond all separation. And this is a level confusion that a lot of course students and teachers get into. It's like, well, actually, we're all already one. So why are we even talking about this? Well, because we have to understand within the framework of separation that this stuff seems to be real. And our job here is to become aware of it so we can let it go. In spirit, in truth, that's not necessary. In heaven, the error is gone. It's not there. But while we're here, there's a process of becoming aware of the error and letting it go, which is the letting go that facilitates this whole awakening process. So our course operates very much within the framework of the belief in separation where it's needed. It's not needed. You wouldn't need a course in mind training in heaven because there's nothing to train. You already are aware of the truth. You simply, are in this blissful state. There's nothing to train. There's nothing to learn. That's an important point to realize. Okay, so next one is belief in separation.
It is the belief in separation that raises questions and doubts, yet this course offers another answer without resorting to the belief in separation's traits of inventiveness or ingenuity. It is simple, with one function and one goal, maintaining consistency.
And if you look at it, it is pretty extraordinary teaching because it is consistent throughout. It's the same message in about 1,300 pages of text. That's a large volume, and it's a consistent message taught, from different perspectives, but it's the same, underlying message that's consistently taught throughout it. And in all of we've done this in detail. I mean, you've seen there's maybe been 2 or 3 times in the whole course where we've gone, okay, that needs to change, haven't we?
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's not quite right. Let's change that because I think
it
actually contradicts the consistency.
Yeah.
Well, it can't. A couple of things, and those might have been editing errors. When they edited it, they needed to just edit out.
Yeah.
You don't know, but that's pretty remarkable for such a detailed text with this amount of words that it is just internally consistent. Which isn't the case with many other teachings. I mean, the Bible, being a classic example, is like that is majorly inconsistent because it's written by many different authors over a span of hundreds of years.
2,000 years.
I mean, well, how can you possibly have internal consistency there? It's not consistent at all, but it's been kind of put together, and it's like, well, the Bible's the word of God. Yeah, there's truth in there, but there's also a load of inconsistency across it because how can you possibly have consistency between things that are written by different authors hundreds of years apart with very different understandings of the world and life? So this is clearly it's coming from one consciousness, coming from one awareness, which we'll call Christ awareness. That's consistently has the same ideas, consistently communicates them in a similar way, in the same style, the same pattern, and that leads you to trust, saying, well, there's something here that is consistent throughout, and it never varies, it never wavers. I can start to trust this, and I can put my faith in this, which is what he's pointing out here in the section. It's like, yeah, you can trust this because it's coming from an intelligence that knows the whole truth and consistently holds to that truth and it doesn't get affected by any illusions. It's completely beyond illusions. You may not be yet, but it is. The truth is. So then that becomes your guiding light in the dream world. Hold to the truth, and that's going to see you out of the darkness back to the light. Okay. So last paragraph and then the key message.
I understand that the belief in separation may look for many answers that this course won't provide. It's the experience that matters, not the theological details. The initial focus on structure quickly gives way to the core teachings of the course.
Not the theological beliefs, shall we say. Theological dogmas. Okay, so what's he saying in that paragraph?
Well, the course is not about the belief in separation's understanding by asking many questions, because it's not going to provide that. However, it's leading us to an experience rather than a theological dogma. And that's what really matters, the experience.
Yeah.
And it's the course is it's on structure. The structure which eventually leads to this experience, to facilitate this experience, yeah. So if we just follow Yeshua's advice, then it's guaranteed.
Yeah, exactly. Saying it's look, it's already a done deal. You actually, in truth, you're already home. You've just got this kind of process to go through. You have to live through it and work through it of undoing your ego. But every mind is already home because that's God's will, and you can't really deny that. But you just have to go through this tricky process of undoing the ego, which is your awakening, and focus on the experience rather than on the dogma to do that. Dogma is just another ego defense, because you identified with the mind and beliefs in the mind. And usually dogma, people who believe in dogma, they attach their identity to the dogma. So they get a sense of identity from that dogma, and they will then defend that dogma sometimes to the death. That's why there's been so much violence in the name of religion, because people go and fight wars of the Crusades. They went and fought wars and killed people for the dogma because they believed so much in it. Gave them a false sense of purpose. Okay, so then just the key message.
I am learning to correct my perception by letting go, moving beyond the belief in separation without getting entangled in theological complexities. This course guides me towards a universal experience of truth, helping me to simplify my journey by focusing on the single goal of awakening to this truth.
Yeah, so very simply, that's the key message. Focus on the experience of awakening, be open to it, and it will happen. The course is designed to facilitate that. So but it's a process. It starts with structural issues. This is a lifetime process. So initially you might go, well, I'm kind of still stuck in structure and intellectually understanding it.
Vacillating.
But trust the process. Yeah, vacillating. I mean, that's normal. It's completely normal. It's what everyone does. You would be, exceptional, an extraordinary student if you just read the course and just got it and went, oh, okay, there we go. I just awaken into an enlightened experience straight away. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's very rare.
Yeah.
Mostly it's a process of, okay, well, you're going to work through this, and it's chipping away, just like, the Michelangelo analogy of chipping away at the sculpture of David to reveal the masterpiece. And that's going to be your work for the rest of your life. You're going to chip away and chisel away and saying, well, that's your only function, that's your only purpose, that's why you're here. So better, best you just get busy with that and live your life that way, moment by moment, day by day. That's your purpose, that's your function. The function is to let go. So apply these teachings and actually do that. And then you're on your journey of awakening, and you're inviting these mystic experiences, awakening experiences to come. And they will, in time reveal themselves. And Sally was a good example of this, because initially there was quite a lot of structure, and we did, she showed up every day, and we did the lessons, and there was questions, and then I just saw how suddenly that started to give way. Took maybe 6 months, and then she started having these kind of mystic awakening experiences, because she started moving beyond theological considerations and structure, and going, wow, it's just the experience. I can just go into this transcendent, awakened, blissful experience where all of that is just left behind, and I just am in the experience. I am that I am.
Yes.
And so it's a good demonstration. I was like, okay, well, this process actually does, it does what it says on the label. It's saying, well, this is what it is designed to do, and it actually, does work that way. Obviously, her journey is unique, and not everyone is going to have exactly the same experience. But I guess that's the archetype. It's like, well, actually, that is kind of how it worked. And then eventually she was like, well, I don't need the structure anymore. Like, the training wheels are gone. I don't need that anymore. Okay, well, fair enough. At some point you don't. You just stay in the, if you're in the being and you stay there, then
you're there.
The structures fall away. So that's where it leads you. This is the Art of Letting Go program is a program designed to facilitate people going through that process of, okay, you've got to deal with some structural issues first. You've got to understand. You work with your intellect, and then you start this process of letting go. And as your understanding gains, there'll be more kind of deeper experiences. And for some, in her case, it took about took a year. She was in the program for about 13 months. In other people's cases, it might take years. You don't know. Everyone's
There's
different.
people 20, 30 years, yes, and they're still
It might take years. It just depends on how open they are, on how diligent they are in practicing them. She was very diligent. She was a good student, like you are, just showing up every day, doing the work. It's like, okay, well, if you do that, then these kinds of experiences can come.
Plus, I think she'd had 30 years of spiritual practice as well, didn't she say? She'd had other spiritual practice.
So she'd done a lot of other work. It wasn't, this was almost like, okay, to use a mountaineering analogy, she's kind of just below the summit of Everest, if you like. She's already got herself to quite a high level on the mountain. It's like, this is like, the final stage. It's like, she's already done 30 years to, work to get herself to say just below the summit type thing. So it was a culmination of all of her understanding, learning, teaching, etc. kind of came to a head, and she was like, oh, this kind of makes sense. And the course is the epitome of all of it, and it's just expressing what I kind of intuitively know and helping me to let go of some of the remaining blocks. And so voila, then these experiences happen, because when you remove all the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, then what's left is love's presence, and you just experience it. So she's a good example of how this can work.
Definitely,
exactly what Yeshua says. This is the process. That actually did happen for her. And it did work, and now she's no longer studying maybe she still studies the course, but not in the same systematic way, because she's gone, well, I don't really need that anymore.
Not necessary,
Not necessary, because I'm in the experience that he's pointing to. No. All right, so oh, good. That's a great little section.
Yes, very good.
took us longer than I thought. So I was going to do another one, but do you want to call it there for tonight? It's already 9:30.
Yes, yeah, we'll call it there for tonight. Yeah, there was, good session, so there's a lot to digest.
Yeah, it's a good kind of recap summary session, isn't it? Because it's like looking at the whole picture, tying it into the hero's journey. It's like going, okay, so this is the whole structure of this course. This is your awakening journey. Let's just recap on that and understand it on a deeper level. Understand your own journey. Where you in that process, and then it's all normal. You're in this trial phase, the adventure. It's like trials, tests.
Yes.
all of that is going on, and that's normal. That's what you have to go through. That
grows new skills.
You down the curve. See, those experiences advance you into
the rebirth,
the next phase, which is the death of the ego and the rebirth into your true self. You need to have those trials and tribulations, failure and tests to do that. So, okay, it's all part of it. So it's all good,
Yeah,
and if you
just
can
keeping open.
have that higher perspective when the tests show up, you go, okay, well, this is good because it's just another test, and this is exactly what I need to awaken. Gives you a very different perspective on it, doesn't it?
It does.
And then you don't resist it, and why has this happened to me anymore? You go, well, it's happening for me. It's happening for my awakening.
That's the way to look at it. I know I still keep thinking, oh God, here we go again. But of course, that's just the ego. Yes, I realize.
You've got to learn to overcome that. That's your initial reaction. Oh, yes. God,
here we go again. Yes.
Here we go again. Roll the eyes. Why is this happening?
Same old, yeah.
Instead, you go, oh, okay, great, another test, and that is exactly, through my tests that I will awaken. So bring it on. Great, another test that advances me. Each test passed advances me to my ultimate awakening, which is what I really want, to actually undo the ego entirely, be reborn into the spirit and into my Christ self. That's what I truly want. That's the desire of my heart, the prayer of my heart. So okay, well, this is just part of that process. Bring it on. But it takes quite a lot of awareness.
Of course, no. Well, even if it takes years, I'm not bothered. I'm pleased to be on the journey.
That's the thing. It's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna keep journeying through this, and when it happens, it happens. When I go through the death and the rebirth, then that's when it happens. And I don't know exactly when that's happened, when that's going to happen, and neither should you. You can't really know this.
Yeah, I'm just keeping open.
Stay open. Keep practicing.
Yes, that's the one. The practice.
Says, if you practice diligently, then you're much more likely to have the accident of awakening, of enlightenment. Enlightenment's an accident, but it tends to, spiritual practice makes you accident prone. That's it's the Zen idea. The more you do it, the more you do spiritual practice, the more likely you are to have this kind of awakening experience and to have these universal experiences that he's pointing us to. And so that's within your control. Just keep practicing. You have a very detailed, disciplined mind training course. That is there's nothing higher than this in this world. There isn't. I would have found it. There's nothing higher than the course. There's other teachings on a par, but in terms of the way he structured it.
I agree. Yeah, I've read many books.
As a disciplined course, it's not just a book you read, it's something you study. It's got a workbook to practice it. He's got an FAQ section, which is the manual for teachers. He's got clarification of terms. I mean, it's a course. He structured it as a course. That's what it's called, A Course in Miracles. It's not just a book. It's a course you study and you practice to facilitate your hero's journey of awakening. I mean, that is given by possibly arguably the greatest spiritual master who's ever lived, and he's now your instructor in this course. He's teaching it. I mean, that's just amazing. You go like, wow, I'm being taught by Yeshua, and he's giving me the best. It's taken him 2,000 years to formulate this. He's giving me the absolute best teachings, the highest wisdom, and he's given me a process to go through in this workbook to really help me to undo my ego. I mean, I'm in many ways much more fortunate than the disciples who had him, personally, but he hadn't written this book. His teachings
Made
were
it
verbal.
easy for us. Yeah.
And I think they also got a bit overwhelmed by his own presence and his miracles. And so they kind of,
They're in awe. Yeah.
yeah, they were in awe. And so they didn't necessarily, absorb the teachings themselves and really understand them. So in many ways, we're more fortunate than they were because he's our personal guide, and he's laid it all out in a course, and he's teaching us day by day. And now we have this wonderful technology, and someone like me comes along and okay, well, I'll put it into a process and a structure and a course for you, to help you on this journey. And it's like, wow, there's never been a better time to awaken. This is it for you. This can be the lifetime that you finally get this. You finally awaken if you just apply yourself.
Yeah.
And that is inspiring. That's what's possible for everyone. Yeah. All right. So shall we leave it there then? Thank you for joining. So
thank you. Excellent again.
Looking ahead to tomorrow. So I'm moving. Are you? We can do it in the day, but I'd probably have to finish at about 4 o'clock latest, or we can do an evening session.
Well, I've got some work in the morning, so I'm not sure what time I'll be back. About 1-ish, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so let's maybe do the evening then.
Yeah.
Give me
Yeah.
Okay. The evening, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, that's good.
All right.
Yeah.
So see you then.
Yeah, see you then. Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Namaste. Good night.
Okay, night. All right, so that's a wrap for tonight. Thank you to Elaine for joining the session. Not possible without you, and to anyone else who watched on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed that. If you'd like to undertake your own Hero's Journey of Awakening, we're starting this course again next year. So join the next masterclass, which will be happening in January, to find out more about how this course and this process can help you to awaken to your own true self, undertake your own hero's journey. So link below to do that. Go to theaolg.com, click the link below in the text message attached to this video on YouTube. You're watching on YouTube, and you can also sign up to get Telegram message every day. The email shared, send that stuff out on Telegram every day, free. So sign up to that. There's a link below. And if you're not a subscriber to the channel, then hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to get more videos like this 6 days of the week. All right. So I hope you learned and enjoyed that and learned from that. And I wish you all strength on your journey of awakening, and I hope to catch you on the inside in this Zoom room soon. Namaste, which means the true self in me, Christ self in me, not as that same true self.